Hey, and welcome to another episode of Unlearn and Reframe with Morni. First of all, Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed your holidays. Is it just me, or did the holidays go by super fast? Well, for me, my boyfriend, my fiance came to visit, and he had to be in quarantine because he came from France. And once you land in Canada, you need to do a mandatory 2-week quarantine. So we basically quarantined together for 2 weeks, and it was amazing. We both agreed that this was probably one of our favorite vacations, or staycations should I call it, in the 5.5 years that we've been together. So we had a lot of fun just having the opportunity to just have those deep conversations with our phones away and not having the stress of just like travel, need to be here, need to be there. It was just us in my room, just watching movies, having those deep conversations, and it just kind of gave us a glimpse of what our future was going to be like. So yeah, we had a lot of fun together alone. So let's dive into this episode. It's going to be the first installment of Truth Bombs with Morni. And in this episode, we're going to do a deep dive into intimacy in relationships. So last week, I reached out to my Insta fam and I asked them to send me questions about relationships and intimacy. And as a relationship coach, I just want to assure you that everything that you discuss or ask me, it's kept strictly confidential. So my page, blog, podcast, inbox is always a safe space for you, where I'll offer no judgment and the best advice that I can give. So I received a lot of good questions. Thank you guys for taking the time to send in questions. Since this is the first time that I'm doing a Truth Bombs episode, I think it's best if I kind of set up a framework for how these episodes are going to look like. So I'll open with the topic and I'll define the terms that I'm going to talk about and my personal opinion. Then I'll follow by reading the questions and answering them one by one. Some of the questions that were asked were kind of personal about my own relationship, so I made sure to talk to my partner about it and see what questions he was comfortable with me answering, because it's super important for me that we're on the same page and that I'm not pushing any of his boundaries. So I did reach out to him. I asked all the questions that were given to me, and he told me which questions he was comfortable with and which he wasn't, and we kind of came to the decision together of what I'd answer. So if I do not address your question in this episode, it's probably because one or both of us didn't feel comfortable discussing certain aspects of my personal life, of our personal life, sorry. So what exactly is intimacy? Intimacy is defined as close familiarity or friendship. It could also mean an intimate act, especially sexual intercourse. I want to emphasize here that you can be intimate with your partner without being sexually active. People always misinterpret intimacy with sex. So basically, being intimate means having a close relationship with someone, which involves physical and or emotional intimacy. Complete intimacy with your partner requires a combination of feeling emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically at peace with your partner. If you feel emotionally close to your partner, where there's a safe space to be vulnerable and raw, you are intimate with them. If you feel physically close to your partner, where you feel connected physically and sexually, this is also being intimate. Intimate relationships are basically when the participants involved share mutual trust, respect, and acceptance. So with the definition out of the way, let's dive into the questions, shall we? So number 1 is, I believe if there's no intimacy, there's no relationship. Am I wrong? Well, by intimacy, if you mean sharing mutual trust and respect, then no, you're not wrong. Healthy long-term relationships do require emotional intimacy, but sexual intimacy is not required in all relationships, so long as both partners are on the same page about it. Intimacy is all about feeling close to your partner compared to other friendships and family relationships you may have. And feeling close to your partner can be expressed in so many different ways, not just in a sexual or physical way. So you're correct if by intimacy you mean like a strong emotional closeness with someone, then yes, you do need that in a relationship. But sexual, probably not. All right, question number 2 is, what are some sure signs that you're ready to get intimate with your partner? This is a very interesting and super relevant question, I feel like. So before getting physically and sexually intimate with your partner, I think it's super important to discuss what you guys are comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with. Discuss your boundaries, what you want to try, and anything that may worry you about when you do get sexual. Sure, sex is passionate and talking about it beforehand may ruin the moment, but trust me, if you love and care for your partner, you should make sure you're on the same page before getting sexually intimate with them. So I made a list of some sure signs that you're ready to get intimate with your partner. So here goes. If you don't have any second thoughts or question if you want to have sex with this person, if you feel comfortable in their presence, if you feel accepted by them and they don't judge you, if you're comfortable enough to show your body to them, even if it does take time, if you feel safe enough that if you say stop or no, they will stop, if you are 100% sexually attracted to them and they turn you on, hell yes, that is a dead-on sign. If you feel like you can deal with it getting awkward or messy, especially if it's your first time, if when you've talked about sex with them and they're sex positive and not shamers that put you down for your interest in sex. And lastly, there's no pressure and they make you feel at ease when you engage in other stuff such as making out, kissing, touching, rubbing, that whole ish. At the end of the day, only you know when you're ready, not your partner, not society, not the media. So dig deep, and if your mind and body is telling you that you're ready to be sexually intimate, then fucking go for it. Okay, the third question. To what extent do we have to make sacrifices and compromises to be in a healthy relationship? I really like this question because I feel like a lot of people don't really know what it means to compromise and what sacrifices are and how much effort they're putting into the relationship. So kind of have a lot of points for this that I thought about. So compromise happens when you find yourself in a deadlock with your partner and having to find a middle ground. Now remember, if one person always seems to compromise and the other always gets their way, that's not called a compromise anymore. That's a sacrifice and only one partner is doing it. And that is not a healthy relationship, guys. In a healthy relationship, good compromises help both you and your partner grow and function together as a team. Healthy relationships never make you compromise your self-worth or your personal beliefs, your family, friendships, ambitions, respect, and your personality. Your partner should accept all of that as part of you. When they chose you, they accept that as you. And if they don't and try to control you or get you to change aspects of yourself, you're not with the right person. If you find yourself compromising anything about yourself, as I stated before, then you're in an unhealthy relationship with a selfish partner who wants to mold you to their liking. Compromises instead should only revolve around issues such as how you argue, basically your tone, if you get angry or heated, or if you shut down, how you manage your time, financial issues, how often you guys have sex, especially if one has a higher sex drive than the other, or parenting habits, communication style, and day-to-day chores. That's what you should be compromising. Do you see the difference? These compromises don't require you to change who you fundamentally are. Healthy relationships should affirm who each partner is and allow each partner to meet their needs. Also, if one person feels like they end up compromising all the time or more often than their partner, it's best to communicate that ASAP. Let me tell you, if you start bottling up your feelings and you're not communicating with your partner about how you're feeling, you're going to end up finding the smallest things about them irritating and you're going to end up freaking hating them. That happens. You're in love with someone and little things start bothering you, and instead of communicating that in a healthy way with them, you start bottling these things in and you're keeping it to yourself, and every small thing, the way they fucking sneeze is going to start pissing you off. So compromise is healthy when it's done equally and for the right reasons and with effective communication. So if you feel like it's not fair in any way, and you feel like you're doing the compromise and you're saying sorry the most, then communicate that with your partner. And if you feel like your partner is making you change aspects about yourself and these are stuff that they should be accepting, then you're probably not with the right person for you. So just kind of let that soak in a little. But yeah, very good question. Thank you. On to question number 4. Do you think there's a saturation point for every relationship? I honestly believe that if you're with the right person meaning someone you're compatible with, that you share values and goals with, and someone that helps you grow and motivates you, and someone that keeps you happy as you keep them, there absolutely is no saturation point. We're human, and I get that we're constantly changing and that we're so complex, but if you're with the right person in a healthy relationship, how can you ever get to a point where you don't absorb or gain anything more? From personal experience, I can tell you that I learn something new about my partner almost every day. Sure, every relationship reaches a point where everything becomes so routine or boring, quote unquote, but you're constantly gaining something as long as you've committed and you've chosen to love that person every single day. So no, I don't think there's a saturation point for healthy, strong relationships. Relationships that start off with only attraction and lack any type of substance, or ones that deteriorate over time because of low compatibility, those relationships may definitely reach a point where there's nothing more substantial that can be added. And I guess it all comes down to the type of relationship. But when you're in a healthy relationship where you're constantly learning something about themselves, something about yourself every single day, I really don't think that you ever get to a level where there's nothing more that can be taken from the relationship. All right, now question number 5. My boyfriend isn't that expressive with his feelings. I don't expect a lot, just tiny appreciations. How do I handle it? This is actually very common in relationships. And the truth is that some people are very open with their emotions while others aren't. And oftentimes these two types of people end up together. So if you feel content with everything else in the relationship and think his lack of expressing his emotions is the only real issue, then this is definitely something that can be worked on. You need to sit down with him and calmly explain how you feel. I'm pretty sure he's probably showing you how much he loves you in his own way, just not through his words like you expect him to. When you have an open conversation with him, don't make him feel attacked. Just calmly state that you know that he loves you and that you would like it even more if he vocalized his feelings a little. In most cases, the partner that is less expressive don't think that there's a problem because they're showing you how much they love you in their own love language. It's important to learn each other's love language. You can refer to my article on morniinspo.com. I provide the link for the quiz that you can take to figure out what your love language is and what your partner's love language is. It's really mind-blowing because you figure out a lot about your relationship through that. I mean, it's gonna take time, but it's definitely doable. In the beginning of my own relationship, my partner, he wasn't that expressive either, but over time we discussed it, we understood each other, and now we've reached a stronger bond. He explained to me that even though he wasn't as expressive and he didn't vocalize his feelings as I did about my emotions, it didn't mean that he loved me any less than I did. He just had different ways of showing it, and it didn't translate for me at first. So take your time, be patient, try to understand each other, try to understand him and get him to understand you, and work together to keep each other happy. It's definitely doable if you feel like everything else is good and you're happy with that. Question number 6. How do you balance love life and regular life? Okay, well, Your love life should be an addition to your regular life. It shouldn't be your whole world. A lot of people get swept up by love and the high feeling that they start neglecting real life, meaning their career or their family and social life. So when you're in a healthy relationship, your partner just fits into your regular life. You make plans with your partner just as you'd make plans with your friends and family. You prioritize your partner, but you make sure that you have time for yourself and for your friends and your family as well. It's pretty easy to find the balance when you find a partner who understands that you can't be with them 24/7. You both need to be independent enough to run your own lives and then come together to wind down and cool off. Excellent communication and true understanding is the only way to find a balance. And if you're with a partner that isn't in that mindset just yet and they constantly need your attention and your affection, then that is definitely something that they should be working on, because they have to realize that you're not going to be available 24/7. Like, you have your own shit to do, and it's not healthy to always be together. You do need your alone time. You do need to have a social life outside of your partner. So balancing your love life and your regular life should be easy if you're with someone who understands, and if you yourself are understanding that independence is very necessary. On to question number 7. What are your thoughts on dating in the friend circle? I think it's doable, but I think you do have to prepare yourself for anything after you cross that boundary. You have to take into consideration that if it doesn't work out, you might lose some friends, especially if it gets messy or awkward. Sides might be chosen. No matter how close you think these friends are, it could get a little tricky, so you have to be prepared for that. There's also the fact that if you're having a bad day with your significant other, but you're hanging out with your group of friends that day, it's not going to be easy being normal in front of them. And if they're good friends, they'll definitely sense the tension and the group's atmosphere might change. So that's something to look out for. And also, it may get a little weird for your friends if you show any type of PDA, and it may seem unfair that you have to hold back, because this wouldn't be the case with any other group of friends just around your mains, but that is the truth. All of this could most definitely change the dynamic of your group, so you should be prepared for that. But in the end, if the feelings are strong, nothing should hold you back from trying. I really do believe the strongest relationships come to be because of a solid foundation of friendship. Finding love with someone who starts off as a friend has the potential to be super powerful, because underneath it all, you guys are good friends and you guys have a complete understanding of each other. So honestly, man, if you feel like you have really strong feelings for this person and they have strong feelings for you back, then fucking go for it. Don't think about the response that you're going to get from your friends, because it's your life at the end of the day, not theirs. Just be prepared for any consequences that may come out of it. But that's a risk you're going to take with any relationship that you get into. Okay, question number 8 is one that I get frequently. What are the next steps after a breakup? Breaking up with someone that you've created a life with and were planning a future with, it's hard. It may feel like there's a sudden void in your life because you were so used to having someone around through thick and thin. So what you need to do after a breakup is allow yourself time to grieve the loss. The worst possible thing that you can do, especially when you're hurting, is to throw yourself into a rebound relationship or find multiple people to date at once. It's not fair to you or the rebound person or people because you haven't given yourself time to move on and heal from your previous relationship. So what are some healthy things that you can do while you heal and try to feel better? You can surround yourself with the people that you love, your close friends or your family. Try to stay off social media for some time because you are going to be reminded of your relationship through other people's posts, through quotes, through anything that reminds you of them, really. Bring yourself a peace of mind by maybe getting physically active, going to the gym, walking around. You should probably delete your ex's number and try not to remind yourself of them. It's important to remember to be kind to yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself and criticize your actions or anything you might have said or did in the relationship. The only way that you can heal is to look at yourself as a person and to be kind. So avoid everything that you know that will make you feel worse. Communicate your emotions to those that are close to you. Maybe you can write it down if you don't feel comfortable talking to someone about it. You should try to take control of your life and practice focusing on mindfulness and positivity. I know that's very cliche, but that is how you heal your mind and your body after a breakup. And remember that you're not alone. You shouldn't allow yourself to get too much into your head. You will be able to love yourself again. It'll take time, but you'll definitely get there. You just need to remember that. Okay, so the next set of questions are questions that people asked that are specific to my relationship. So here goes. Question number 9. We know your story of how you fell in love with Raj. Can we hear his story? So I asked him to describe the journey for him, and I wanted him to actually do like an audio clip that I could include in this podcast, but he wasn't up for it because he's a little shy. He's gonna hate me for saying that, but yeah, no, he is not as extroverted as I am. So I'm going to tell you what he said. I wrote it down. So I'll kind of go into what he said. So if you guys don't know already or didn't hear episode 3, I believe, where it was me and him, I met him in France when I went for a wedding. I stayed there for 1 month. And during that month, we hung out pretty much every day and we were like magnets. We couldn't get away from each other. We didn't want to get away from each other. And we became like really good friends. We had met one time prior to that in 2012 when I went for Christmas. It was only for 2 weeks, but I met him here and there at parties, but we weren't that close. But when I went back in 2015 for my cousin's wedding, that's when we met and we got super close. So this is what he said. He said he knew he liked spending time with me after my cousin's wedding. We're meeting up almost every day. And after 2 weeks, I left Paris and him and I went to Lyon, which is in the south, with one of my cousins. And that's when Raj said he realized how strong his feelings were, and I felt the same way. It was only when we were away from each other that we realized how much we enjoyed being in each other's presence. So we talked on the phone literally every day for 3 days, the 3 days that I was in Lyon. And when I returned from Lyon, he knew he wanted to spend as much time as possible with me before I left to Canada, which was going to be in another 2 weeks. So the last week that I was in France, after 1 month of building a strong connection with him, he told me that he wanted to start a relationship with me because he didn't want to lose our connection once I came back to Canada. And he said he loved me at this point, but when I asked him when he fell in love with me. He told me it was 4 months later when he came to Canada to spend the holidays with me for Christmas. He realized that I was the one. I don't know what I did. We had 4 months of communication back and forth from August when we decided to get into the relationship until December when he came to visit me. But it was only when we lived together in December when he realized he was falling in love with me. So yeah, that's his take on our love story. Okay, question number 10. How did you decide who will make the life work change of immigrating to another country? This question we get a lot because obviously we're in a long distance relationship and people want to know who's making the move. I've been to France numerous of times since I was 2 years old because my dad has some family there. But I knew as much as I loved France for vacation, I knew I didn't ever want to settle there permanently. I love France, but in terms of space, I always felt super claustrophobic, especially after living in Canada with a lot of space. After Raj came to Canada for the first time, we kind of started discussing pros and cons of living in each country. So each country's healthcare and standard of living was practically the same. My career is pretty flexible and I can work from either country. Raj's career is so in demand that he could find something if he were to move to Canada. Another point is that his English is really good, especially because he has to speak it at work and with me. But my French isn't as good as his English. And to top it all off, Raj fell in love with Canada and the way of living here. And he was more open to settle in Canada than I was to settle in France. I'm open to living there temporarily for 1 or 2 years to close the distance for now. And then once we get married and want to settle down, we both agree that we'll move to Canada for that. We discussed this in the past 5.5 years that we've been together, and we made the decision that it would be best if he immigrated to Canada. The transition for him would be easier than if I were to move to France. Okay, the next question is, do you have issues with language? Not at the moment, but when we first started talking and hanging out with each other back in 2015, language was a barrier for us. It didn't stop us though. He spoke choppy English at the time and I spoke choppy French. I still speak choppy French because my English accent is very strong when I try to speak in French. But we both knew Tamil and sometimes we had to resort to speaking in Tamil with each other. And the funny thing is, I don't speak in Tamil to any of my friends my age or my cousins, and same with him. He doesn't speak in Tamil to anyone his age. It's only pretty much with our parents or aunts or uncles. But we liked each other so much that it didn't really seem like a big issue. Now we speak only in English with each other and sprinkle in a little bit of French here and there when I'm trying to practice or when I'm trying to be fancy. But sometimes we get stuck explaining a word or phrase, but nothing strong communication and Google Translate can't fix. But yeah, he surprises me every single day with the vocabulary that he's learned the past 5 years and how well he grasps phrases and slang that people in Toronto have. He's pretty amazing, and I hope one day I can speak to him in his first language, in French. I'll get there eventually, especially if I'm planning on moving to France for a bit. Hopefully I can learn it fluently and, talk to him in 3 different languages. Okay, question number 12. Who is more romantic, him or you? I'm gonna be real with y'all. I've never considered myself a romantic, but he brings that side out of me. He loves to tease me about it. And he is romantic in his own way, but I'm definitely more romantic than him. Okay, the next question is, ever had problems related to cheating in your long distance relationship? Another question that we both get a lot. And the answer is the same. every single time? No. We've never had any problems relating to infidelity or cheating. Raj and I are 100% transparent with each other, coupled with the fact that we're both confident people and trust each other a lot. 100% transparency just means that he tells me everything. And by everything, I mean when girls hit on him, I tell him about guys that approach me or try to flirt with me. We don't hide anything from each other. And by having 100% transparency in our relationship, it's helped us establish a strong sense of trust in each other. We've both worked past our personal insecurities and we're very confident in ourselves. Confident meaning I know he's not going to find another crazy girl like me who showers him with attention and fucking adores him. And he knows that I'm never going to find a gorgeous man like him that actually believes in equality and is a feminist and loves me for who I am. So no, we've never had to worry about cheating. Okay, moving on to the next question. We're almost done, guys. Number 14. Did you find it awkward that you/your fiance had sex with other people before? I have trouble with it. Okay, I really wanted to answer this question because your partner's sexual or romantic past should not bother you. You're living in the present. And it's not fair for you to bring up their past or for them to bring up your past. Their sexual history is in fact history, and now they're with you. So make most of your sex life without getting too in your head about their past. Before getting with my partner during our talking phase, our dating phase, we discussed our sexual history. We were open with each other about it and had to be honest. And I think that openness made us more interested in each other, if anything. The fact that I was so open with him about my past made him trust me, and that's what solidified it for me when I asked him. There's this question that I asked him, and I said, would it bother you if your future girlfriend, me, or your future wife, still me, had sex with guys before him? And I was really nervous to hear his answer just because this is when we were first getting to know each other and I didn't know how he would respond. And this honestly kind of felt like a make it or break it, a deal breaker kind of question for me. And the answer that he told me was, how can I expect my future partner to be a virgin if I had a past too? It's just not fair. And that right there, folks, felt like the skies opening up and angels singing and bells ringing. And I just kind of knew that, okay, this is the man for me. And to this day, it doesn't bother us that we have a past. We obviously don't discuss or go into detail about our sex life or sex lives before each other. But we're more than happy in our sexual present and intend to keep it that way. So please don't get it too into your head about it and just trust that this is your partner now in the present. You have this partner in the future, and their entire history, their sexual history, their romantic history led them up to this moment with you. So you shouldn't be focusing so much on what they've experienced because they're bringing so much new to the table. And if they do discuss in detail, which they probably wouldn't, about their sexual past, then tell them that you aren't comfortable with them sharing this shit with you, and you would prefer that they didn't bring up their exes or they didn't bring up their sexual history. But the fact that they have a history shouldn't bother you. And last question, how do you make long distance work without intimacy? I was frustrated with this question, and I'll tell you why. It's because there's this huge misconception that people have about long distance relationships. They think that people in long distance have no intimacy whatsoever or have low sex drives, and that is so false. Like I mentioned earlier, intimacy is a close familiarity to someone where you share a strong emotional and or physical relationship with someone. And let me tell you, my partner and I are very intimate with each other. if you're talking about intimacy in terms of sex and just sex, then you're in for a mini lecture today. People think that those with high sex drives can't last in a long distance relationship. And I am living proof, people, that this theory is not true. If you are in love with someone and crazy about them and want to build a future with them, then trust me, you can last a few months or years without having actual sex, even if you have a high sex drive. In the meantime, while long distance relationship couples are living apart from each other, there's so many different ways to keep up intimacy and keep the spark alive. Long distance relationship couples, for example, can send each other flirty texts throughout the day. They can sext, sending photos or videos to each other to turn each other on. They can talk dirty on the phone, and come on, man, it's the 21st century. They can have phone sex, they can have video sex with each other to keep up the sexual intimacy. It's very much manageable, even though it can get frustrating at times that you don't have the real deal. It always brings a strong couple even closer to each other, having the opportunity to share these moments with them, even though it's not physical. The longing is there, the love is there. All that buildup and anticipation makes reunion sex all the more amazing. That probably can't be described. So as long as you've discussed sex and boundaries with your long distance relationship partner, building intimacy and keeping the sexual passion alive in a long distance is very real and very possible. So don't get it twisted. Don't think there's no intimacy in a long distance relationship, because there very much is. And now you know. Which brings us to the end of the episode. That was 15 questions. Thank you guys so much for sending all of those questions in. I really enjoyed reading them, answering them, and hopefully I gave you guys some insight. I'm sorry to those people whose questions that I didn't get around to. I will be opening up more truth bombs with Morni questions. So stay tuned for those, and please do respond and send in questions so I can do another podcast episode like this. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys don't already follow my Instagram, which is where I'll be posting questions and relationship related advice, my Instagram handle is M0RNI_. So it's Morni_. So you can follow me on there for updates. Other than that, I hope January treated you guys well, and I hope going into 2021 you guys have an amazing year ahead. I have a lot of content lined up and I'm super excited to post, to record, and I have so much exciting shit coming up. So thank you guys for all the support. I love you guys, and until next time, this is Morni signing off. Bye guys.